review. Book review. Alright, so what have I been doing this past week, you might ask, or you might not. Well, I have been reading a book. Yeah, that's really crazy, isn't it? I can actually read. As an English literature student, as one does, you read. You read all the time. So I really wanted to get back into reading and get through all the books that I haven't read yet, which is a lot of books. Basically, I recently watched the third Maze Runner, The Death Cure. So I thought to myself, well, wait a minute. Look, I have this 4-box set. There's the 3 here and the kill order, right? So I was like, well, now that the third movie is over, I should probably read the 4th book, right? So I did. And here is my review of The Kill Order by James Dashner. Now, first of all, let me just say right off the bat that I didn't read the small text underneath here which says the prequel. So I came into this book expecting the continuation of the third movie, which of course was not the case. I soon figured out that it was a prequel. I had no problem with that at all. I was just a bit surprised. I guess then they split the book in 2 for the movie, so I'm gonna have to read the Death Cure to get up to date for the movie. Also, let me just quickly put in that I did read the first Maze Runner a few years ago, so I have no memory of that at all. So I'm kind of going into this a bit blind. I was really excited, to tell you the truth. I love me some post-apocalyptic world building, some really nice character development, some, Walking Dead style kind of, oh my god, what's going on? And, yeah. What was really important for me about this book as well is because it's kind of like, it's like this kind of dystopia, at least it's like a world after it kind of fell apart, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And my book, which I'm writing currently, working on, is also set in the future after a post-apocalyptic, I can't say that word, world. And so I was looking for this for inspiration and vocabulary and writing tips. Let's just say that this has told me either 2 things. Either I write really well, or this is not really nicely written, because let me just say this, a lot of the text really, really looks like what I wrote and what I wrote in my first draft. So either I'm a genius or this isn't as good as it seems. Okay, let me just say off the bat, I feel really, really, really bad saying that, but there were times over and over again while I read, I was like, did this really make it into a finished book? Is this not like a parody or something? Is this really how it's written? Genuinely, there were times where I was like, is this the real thing? Is this by James Dashner? Is this really the Maze Runner that was put into a movie? Oh my god, my book is going to be put into a movie, because I don't know. There are so many parts of this that are cringy, that are so simply written. I don't know if it's the effect that it's maybe for kids to read, but at the same time, I don't know, the demographic of people reading this, I think, are a bit older, right, than just, kids. Or am I totally wrong? Is this like Narnia or something? I have to read Narnia to compare it to it. Also, this is probably because I came out of, for example, reading Tolkien or reading all these English literature, like classics that we had to read for class, which were super hard to read, of course, and this was so easy to read. There was nothing complicated about anything. It's a good thing, it's easy to read, but it's also like, okay, but that's just from the writing point of view. God damn it. Look, I really didn't want to make my first review like such a bash and such a horrible, horrible review, but this is my opinion, this is how I see it, this is how I read it, and I'm sorry, I'm gonna be honest, I don't want to lie to make it sound better than I personally thought it was. And I did read the acknowledgements at the end, and it just reminds me that every author is a human being, and it is horrible to see someone, of course it's not going to see it, but, it is horrible to know that there are people bashing your book, being very critical about it, and I don't want to be that person who's pessimistic or, just wants to bash it for the sake of bashing it. But I was genuinely really excited. I really liked, I liked the idea of Maze Runner. It wasn't, it was, again, this kind of Hunger Games, Divergent kind of trend. But I don't really mind that. So I was okay with that. But just this book was just, it was probably just not my cup of tea, It was like, with my friend, we went to watch 2 different movies at the cinema, and both had a similar theme, of, action and violence, blah, blah, blah. So the first one was The Commuter, which my friend absolutely adored, and which I absolutely despised, because it had a lot of action, granted, but there was no significance in character development, or, just like this character development or anything interesting cinematographically. So, but that's for films. So, as a film, there was nothing very much interesting about it. It was very boring in my opinion, because it's just not my cup of tea. On the other hand, You Were Never Really Here was a whole different story. It was very, very focused on showing a story in a very cinematic, very interesting kind of way. And the character development was mind-blowing. It was really about the characters. It wasn't about, the central point wasn't just the action for the sake of action and effects. It was about the story. And I kind of felt the same way about this. This has so much action in it, which again is not generally my type of action, so violence, fighting, but I'm okay with it if it has something to do with the characters, if it develops the characters, if it has causes and consequences for the characters. For example, in the series, I'm going back to cinema, but whatever, or like TV. But anyways, in Breaking Bad, every action or violent scene or anything you see has a cause. There's a development getting up to there, and it has very, very strong consequences. You can't get away with anything as it is, and that is one of the many points that makes Breaking Bad probably one of the best series I've ever watched, because it has this tying together. The action parts in this book just seem like time fillers. I mean, yeah, they are realistic, but they don't do anything for the characters. One of the main characters, whose name is Mark, I believe, spoiler alert, of course, he has one of the diseases that a lot of, most people in this book have, and he's getting crazier and crazier, and so every time there's violence towards the end, it kind of seems to push him more and more into this state of this craziness which the disease leads people into. But it never really takes effect. It just comes back as if nothing happened. And that's also a thing in the book, that the 2 main characters have violent encounter after violent encounter, and you think they'd be at least knocked out by the 3rd or 4th fight. No, they just keep going as if there's some person in an action movie where they just don't have any consequences and nothing matters to them. Let me go on a bit more about what the story's about. Well, it's about these 2 guys and these 2 women and this one kid, girl, and they're looking for these people who infected their village with a disease. And an interesting observation, I'm not gonna say this is like horrible or something. I don't really mind this, but just an interesting observation. 2 main characters are guys, and their goal is to save the 2 women and the girl. I don't have too much of a problem with that. It's kind of cliched again, but what was very weird was that it was always specified whether the bad guy that was coming out after them was a man or a woman, and it was kind of, I don't know, it felt weird to me as, someone who doesn't really feel comfortable with this whole division of genders. Social justice warrior breaking through. No, it just felt weird. That's all. And that's all I'm gonna say. I don't feel too weird about this story. Yeah, whatever. Also, the passage, they get to these bad characters, but you always want there to be a strong villain, a nice, really strong villain you can really hate. Breaking Bad. And here we have like no real other characters that we can really connect to outside of probably the two main characters, the two main guys. And I didn't even connect to them. I kind of connected to none of them. The dialogue didn't seem realistic. There was very awkward and cringy stuff in there, and but awkward and cringy as in it didn't feel natural. It sounded like something I'd write in my first draft. So when I cringe at that, and I'm like, I have to change that because there's no way that's going to be published. And to see something like this, I'm like, I don't get it. I don't know why this is the way I just don't know. It's just, this is just an action book, and it's really not my thing in that way. I'm there for the characters. I want to connect to the characters, feel something, and I felt absolutely nothing about any of these characters. And also when one of them died, I was like, well, we never knew her anyway, so who cares? I never really connected to any of them. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I wish I had. So I have a few bookmarks and stuff I want to go over, as an English student does. Yeah, there's a lot of cringy repetition, which feels forced. Here, you shouldn't talk with your mouth full, Mork replied with a weak smile. It's not polite. I know, Alec crammed even more food in and exaggerated his movements to make sure Mork saw everything he was chewing. What kind of person even needs to be told such a thing? I mean, didn't I have a mama? Mark laughed. The comedy is out of place. It feels forced. Some people in these kinds of situations do respond with humor, but this, I don't know if this counts as humor. This is something one of my characters would say in my book. His name is Aiden, and I'm changing all of that because it just doesn't work, and I don't think it works in this case anyways. And the thing is, like, the forced comedy, comedy generally in these kind of situations is, shouldn't it make the reader laugh? I don't know. I'm not sure about that, but I would have loved to laugh. No part of the book made me laugh. No part of the book made me cry. On the other hand, Mockingjay by Collins, I was sobbing my eyes out. Spoiler alert at the part where Prim dies. I don't know if it's just because I related or if it's also as badly written. I can't wait to read another book so I can compare this, because my whole world is just being flipped upside down. I'm scared for my life that all the books that I have been reading up until now, Divergent and Hunger Games and Harry Potter, are as badly written. I'm just scared that that's the case and I never noticed it. That would just be sad. I'm sorry about bashing it, okay? But I need to be honest with you. Here, page 203. Ah, yes. So, there are two people trying to fight their way into a ship in which the two main characters are. It's very graphic, as most of the fighting is, and it's very tense. And then this happens. So they're trying to get in, and it registered with Mark who these two people were, the pilots. He'd heard them speaking before. Sorry, man, Mark said. The sense of surreality had turned into an odd flutter in his chest, making him feel almost outside himself. His head thumped with pain. I am afraid I can't let you on without proper identification. Is that a joke, or was he really saying that? I think it was a joke. It's a horrible, horrible joke. It's like the cringiest thing ever. It's like this, oh my god. It just feels forced. Let me just put it out there. It feels forced. I feels like it's the first draft that, I don't know. I'm so sorry, man. I'm so sorry. But for me, this just feels like there wasn't really a lot of work put into the dialogue at all. Sorry. And the two guys are always trying to save the two others, or at least trying to save the village or whatever. And page 67, it's repeated all over, but I took note of two instances. It's very dramatic. Everyone get out of here, Lana yelled. Out now! Oh my god, Mark was speechless. Everything in him wanted to do the opposite of what she's just ordered. He wanted to help his friend. What is that? What is even that phrase? That is like, that is the definition of a draft. Right there. He just just write in a short sentence what they're going to do in that scene, or what he's thinking in that scene, and then develop that and make it sound real. He wanted to help his friend. I want to help my friend. I want to help my friend. My friend. The friend word is repeated all over this book, and it's annoying, and it's super superficial. Like, just word it differently. I don't know, that just sounds like something out of kindergarten. Like, let's go help our friends. Wow, I'm being really mean. It's again on page 231. I'm picking this apart like a maniac. University, are you proud of me? What you've turned me into? A monster who's bashing on books that have been published and have made sold millions of copies? Ugh! Okay, so this is like way later in the book, but it's repeated again. Thankfully, Alec was easy on him and didn't talk much while they both ate and strengthened themselves for the day ahead, for the search for their friends. So first of all, this sentence sounds like it should be changed, like, for the search for their friends. Like, it's a tongue twister, and in your head, it's also a tongue twister, so it doesn't really sound nice. This is me after I listened to Eminem once. It doesn't sound nice. So, that's a first. And then, again, for the search for their friends. For my friends. I will search for my friends, and I will find them. I'm going to repeat this again, but I'm scared that all the books that I've read before sound the same, and I'm stabbing this, and then I notice that everyone else is written the exact same. I'm having way too high standards. Am I having way too high standards? I don't know what my standards are. My standards are something that doesn't sound like I'd write it. Okay. Basically, that's that. So, basically, again, this goes into, like, the forced stuff and, like, this repetition of stuff. On page 65. 64 and 65. It's very interesting here. Also, I wanted to read a book to get more vocabulary about, post-apocalyptic worlds and stuff like that, and I got barely anything out of that. Here, page 64. Remember this. Trina's and Alec's eyes said it all. They couldn't risk being anywhere near his body. Sad. Page 65. Exactly one page later. And Trina, looking at Mork. Her eyes said it all. You're gonna put there, or her eyes said it all, a page apart. It's... And then never, like, almost never, like, at least I can't remember seeing it much in the book. Again, it's like... It's kind of the simplistic way of writing, and I don't know, it just feels like a draft for me. It just feels like, look, positively looking, it feels like this had more potential. It had more potential for character development. The story in itself, about them moving around, it's okay. It's not too mind-blowing. There is a bit of easy solved problems. Again, there would have been so much that you could just shown, or written about these villains, about these characters at the post-flare, whatever it's called. But I don't know, maybe it's more in depth in these books. I'm not sure. That's why I can't really say that. They're not in depth, but I'm pretty sure can say that the characters that we did see there, except for Dee Dee, who is Teresa, spoiler, they're not really, there's nothing I can see where they develop, so I'm really scared that my book's going to be like that, so don't do that. Develop them, please. I want to see them develop. I want to see them grow. I want to see them change. The two others never had the chance to change because they were either taken by the virus or killed. So, yeah. What I was also looking forward in this book was the world in which they were in and the description. And there also was barely any of it, and I'm going to have to get back to that because this just makes me think that my book has too much description, because I was even planning on writing more about the broken cities and the forest and the post-apocalyptic societies and everything, and this doesn't go too much in depth about it. Actually, my favorite parts of this were the flashbacks that Mark was having to when the flares hit, because that sounds like an interesting story. Like the beginning of Walking Dead was also kind of interesting. I'm really into post-apocalyptic stuff. So, that's that. But again, also, in those flashbacks, there was no character development whatsoever. One thing happened after the next, and it kind of sounded like it was, for the plot, like you'd see in movies, just to get them forward, to get them to another place. And also, what I didn't really enjoy too much, of course, everyone can hate their characters, but at least it makes me feel something about the characters. Mark doesn't seem really, so he's in love with this girl, whose name I can't remember because I'm super bad at names. There are like 4 names in here and I can't even remember them. I'm bad at names, okay? But anyways, there's this girl he's in love with, and he's scared of telling her, and then the flares come in, and then they're forced together, and it makes him all happy because he's with her, and then they end up together, and then she apparently loses her memory from the disease thing, and then his life is over, that it's so sad, and every time it hits him in his heart that she can't remember him, I like to think it's just that he misses being with her, but another part might just be, that he has to do it all over again and make her fall in love with him again. And in the end, he remembers him, so it's all happy-go-lucky. I hate happy endings, but that's just a personal thing. So this was not for me, but I can't say that the ending was bad or anything, because that's just a personal opinion. Most of this was a personal opinion, because I have apparently very high standards. I just want to say that it does have potential. You could do a lot with this, and I feel like it didn't do enough. It should be longer. It should have had more time to explore what the disease did to people, more time to explore the whole rituals of the other groups that were having this disease. Much more was to explore about the people who infected them, and a prequel about them, but then again, that's me talking about, writing books and stuff. And more into, before they came with the whole disease thing, a bit more world building, a bit more, I want to learn about how they live. And when they left the village, I was so excited because that was kind of what was happening in my book. They were leaving, they were on the move. How did they get food? How did they get water? How did they make fire? How did they go to sleep? Blah, blah, blah. What did they take watches? Did they hunt? Did they eat berries? Did they find a lot of streams? Are you going to explain that? And this did very, very few of that, except for when they came into the ship and they got food out of there. So it didn't really help me book-wise, but at the same time, I understand it. It's kind of, saving time, and no one's going to look into it like I did. No one's going to be like, how did they get the berries? Were there berry bushes? Do they know which berries are poisonous? That's me. Looking into it as a fellow writer who is writing a book where they're also in nature, and they're in it for the first time, so they don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. So I was looking forward to this, and this didn't really give me an answer, so I'm probably going to have to watch Bear Grylls. But that's fine. That's fine. I was just hoping to get something out of it. I think I'm going to read Lord of the Rings for that. Also, a personal opinion, never during this book was I ever really, because I was never invested into the characters, I was never really interested into the story, and I was kind of bored, and I forced myself to read it until the end, although it was easier to read than The Cursed Child, which I absolutely despise, but that's a whole other story. Anyways, so I forced myself to finish it. The thing that I like about it is the whole cliffhangers at the end of most of the chapters. It's a thing that people do, but I just love them in general, even if some of them were expected. A lot of them were expected. The main one being, spoiler alert, that Dee Dee is Teresa, but I knew that from the moment they met her. I don't know if it was supposed to be a surprise, or if people were meant to know because it was obvious. A little girl, immune, Teresa. There you go. And I don't even know too much about the Maze Runner, so it's pretty easy. And then the guy, the epilogue, Thomas. Okay, yeah, I knew that. Sad days. I have more book. Oh god, I have even more notes in here. Yes. So basically on page 244. So these two guys are together this whole book, and on page 244. So we're pretty much at the end. So Alex says to Mark, "I saw them, no doubt. Don't give up hope yet, son." "You all only call me son when you're scared," Mark answered. Alex smiled kindly. Exactly. That should have been way at the start. Why is he only saying that now? He has called him son throughout the whole book, and that was never mentioned. Now all of a sudden it's just in there, and it's like, okay, why? So I don't understand that. And also, oh, I just saw this. The page after that, it's again, let's go get our friends. A lot of it also is like to serve the characters, and it's easy to do stuff, and they have easy solutions. And also, I was so surprised when they finally featured one of the, like, these type of doors that are very prominent in my book, which are these submarine doors with a wheel handle. And I was always looking for what they were called, and apparently in Subnautica they're called bulkhead doors. Other people might call them watertight doors. And then they have this one part in this book where they have that, and then it's literally explained as a metal door with a wheel handle that looked something like out of a submarine. Along those lines, that was what it said, and I was like, oh my god, I've been trying to find the word for this door, and you're gonna give me that. Alright, it's fine. It's just not gonna help because my character doesn't, like, the characters in my book don't know what a submarine is, so it's gonna be hard to explain. Anyways, if you know the name of that door, if you can give me a name of a website where I can find vocabulary for types of doors, please let me know. Oh my god. There's another occasion where he says it. I can't take it anymore, he said. He reached down and picked up his backpack and slung it onto his shoulder. Let's go out there and find our friends. And then it's even like cringer. It's like Alec gave him a sharp look. I just meant with all the waiting. I can't take it. His head ached, but he tried to ignore it. Come on, let's do this. It's just this repetition. It's annoying. I like the repetition about the heat and stuff, but I feel like the repetition of the headaches and all that sometimes gets saturated. I don't mind it too much, but this whole "our friends" repetition, that is not my thing. And then I have a last book. Oh, it's my last bookmark. Hooray! A history which was never explored on the first page of chapter 56, which is page 267. Oh yeah, this is after Lana's death, so Lana and Alec had, they were like together or something, and they had a relationship together, and so here, in the aftermath of that, though Mark never fully understood what kind of relationship the two veterans had shared, I couldn't even remember that at some point they said that she was a veteran as well. It had been deep and full of history. And my response to that is we never got any glimpse of that history or of that relationship in general, mostly because most of the time they were not together, but I can't seem to remember anything about them being together. So that's just sad. It had potential. I usually give these books or a series or films on my blog, on which I'm going to share this as well. I normally give them stars out of 5. I hate giving bad grades, I really do, but I'm not gonna lie. So I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna be brutally honest. Trust me, I'm not like this in real life. With people, I'm really nice, and I'm not brutally honest because that's not nice. But as a critic on my blog, it's my job to be honest and to be harsh. Is it? Yeah. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. I'm going to be brutally honest with whatever my opinion of how good or bad it was. And my opinion is a 1.5 from 5 for the effort and the action scenes, which are okay. Another funny thing that I saw with this was the comparison between this and Infinity War, in which both cases they're trying to kill half of the population for resources. It was an interesting observation. I don't think they're correlated. So yeah, but although I don't really understand it, because apparently they were starting with this plan of killing half humanity before the sun flares, and then after the sun flares they were still going on with it, or was the sun flares that? I'm still kind of confused, because like the sun flares and the disease is a different thing, right? So I'm kind of confused, because I think if the sun flares happened, it'd be cool, like it's done, so like kind of nature did it for you, so I don't really get it, but that's all I have for now. That was The Kill Order by James Dashner review. Book review. The book that I'm going to read next is a French book. Oh my god, I can't believe I'm saying that, but I need to get through all of these books, and it's probably going to be English, French, not sure, but this is something I've been wanting to read for a very, very long time, and it's from Delphine Collin, and it's Voir du Pays. So, this was one of the suggested books from Première, which is 11th grade, and I never read it because who does? Anyways, and so I'm gonna read it, and I think it's gonna be a good book because it's recommended school stuff, so it's probably gonna be deep. I'll be back in the next book review. I don't know if I'm gonna do it in English, so see you in the next book review. Until then, sorry. I'm sorry. I wish it would have been better. I wish it too. I always wish that the books are as good as they can be.